All right, part one of the two-part video series in how to wet sand. You can see here the orange peel in this door. I personally painted this truck about 4 months ago. This is also my personal truck. So I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown on how I get rid of this orange peel. Keep in mind, paint doesn't cure for 90 days, so I did wait to do this. I also suggest if you are doing your first orange peel delete or any wet or dry sanding in general that you do it by hand first. So we did start right off light. I jumped in with a 1500 grit Trizact disc. I ended up dropping down to a 1200 grit. Now what I'm using is I'm using a air sander with a 1/2 inch backing plate. It's a foam backing, so it's not so hard of an edge. And what I'm doing right now is I'm doing about a 2-lap pass. Keep in mind, your first cut is your most important. It is also the most risky cut. You want to be very careful on your edges and your round corners not to punch through. If you punch through, the panel will have to be re-cleared or repainted. Now, after I hit it with my 1200 grit, what I do is I'm going to get rid of all that sanding dust, and I'm going to move up to a 1500 grit dry sand. Again, I have a little more orange peel on this truck because I did do 5 coats of clear. I did this so I had a lot to work with. Now that I'm done with my 1500 grit dry sand, I'm moving up to my 1500 grit wet sand. I have a little bit of soap and water on here to give it some extra lubrication. One thing I'll tell you, if you put too much soap, the pad's going to kind of stick and not like to spin. Now keep in mind, I'm doing about a 3-lap pass on this. This is when things start getting very important because the goal is to remove your previous steps' sanding marks. You really want to focus on all the areas that you sanded previously. In between your panels, make sure you're using some glass cleaner. Alcohol based, of course. Dry it out, take a look at it before you move to the next step in case if you miss some areas. Now what I'm doing is I am moving up to a 3000 grit Trizact disc. One thing I'll say, when you get to your 5000 grits, when you're doing your wet sand, take your time because in the end it's going to make it easier when you go to cut and polish this paint. Remember, a paint's finish is all from the start. The more time and prep you take, the better end result you're going to get. So right now you can see I'm just trying to get around that fender well, trying to get really nice and deep in those corners, working on those edges really nice. Again, really take your time with this. It's the most important part. It's going to save you a lot of time when you go to polish this vehicle. Now, like I said, if you have a little too much soap in it, it's going to kind of have a hard time spinning, but that's all right because you don't want this spinning a million times a minute. Remember, the goal is not to get the panel hot when you're doing any sanding or buffing. Stay tuned for next part.